We're going to be doing a live session. So let's go ahead and get John out here. John, come on in.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, how are you today?
Very well, thank you. It's day 4 for me here in London town, and we're just hanging on in there.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So today, we decided to do something totally different, and I can't believe you agreed to this because this was something that we don't always get to do live shooting. As you can imagine, we are literally in a shoebox right here.
Yep.
And you can see we've got a whole bunch of live action going on out there, so it should get a little bit crazy, but I think our goal yesterday was to kind of show how even in a very small space, you can create beautiful portraits, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. Size isn't important. You can do loads of stuff providing you have that vision, that creativity, that understanding of light.
So how much room would you say we have here?
Well, I'm about 6 foot tall, and I think if I was lying at my model's feet, my head would be touching your boots.
Yeah, so we're talking 6 feet, maybe by 6 feet. It's a pretty tiny area. One small background, what would you guess the size is here?
That's about 5 foot square.
5 foot square. And let's talk about your lighting source. What are we going to be using today?
Okay, I use the Elinchrom lights. This is the Elinchrom BRX 500, so it's a 500 watt head. Studio head quality, so it works off the mains. A lot of time I use the Elinchrom Quadras when I'm out and about because they can use a battery pack. But in the studio, I love this head because it's got a nice modelling lamp in there, and it's fitted with a 135 by 50 strip box without the outer layer of diffusion. Don't know if the viewers can pick that up, but it's just this inner baffle here that's just giving a nice crisp quality to the light on our model Della.
So we're going to be doing a one light photo shoot, correct?
Keeping it simple.
Very good, very good. So for those of you who are out there working in very small spaces, maybe a home studio, you're just starting out and you're struggling to figure out how to make the lighting work, we're going to do it with a single light source today. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our model who's just hanging out over here, ready to go. Let's talk a little bit about your model.
Hiya Della, wave to the camera. Okay, Della's been working with me for about 6 months now, and I always look for models who possess their own levels of creativity. And Della's not just a pretty face, she's also an actor, a dancer, a singer, and so she brings all those qualities to my photography, which means she's a creative in her own right and gives me that extra little edge to the images that I make.
Very nice to meet you. We're so glad to have you here. So working with Adela today, what is your goal? What are we going to learn today?
The goal for me is to make the face look structured, look different, giving us many different looks in this relatively small setup that we have, using just the one light setup. So all the sets that I do, most of all, I'd like people to try it. If all you've got is a softbox and a little speed light, then try it. Just because I'm working with a studio head doesn't mean that's what you guys need. Try the techniques, try the angles, and see what you can produce.
Fantastic. Well, we do have a full segment here, but what we're going to do is let's go ahead and do a segment, and then maybe just call me back in, and we'll talk a little bit about those images, and then we'll keep shooting. So we can, I know you guys would be happy to go as long as John would, but of course we have a limited time here with him, so I'm going to step out of the way and turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sandy. Right then, we're going to look at using this single light setup. The light is at the rough angle of about 45 degrees to our subject, a little bit higher than her, and angled down slightly. That means that the majority of the light is going to be coming out of the top of this softbox. So the top of the softbox here, the majority of the light is going to be coming out of it. Because this lower edge is angled backwards, it's going to vignette off slightly towards the bottom of Della's feet. That means it's going to be slightly darker there, and that's good because it gives that little bit of interest. We don't want it evenly lit from top to tail. We want a little bit of differentiation in there. So by angling the light, we get a different sort of look. This is how I'd usually start off a shoot. It's simple lighting. It's nice, easy lighting. 45 degrees to the subject, higher than her, and angled slightly down so that we're getting nice illumination. Now, how do we know how bright this light is? Well, we've got to use a light meter to assess that. The light meter I use is this. It's the Gossen DigiSky. It's designed to work with the Elinchrom brand of lights, and so when I turn it on by twisting the outer layer around so the bulb comes out, I can press the test button, and as I press the test button, the flash goes and I can start to meter my light. Now I would need to know, using this, how much light is actually hitting Della. So I've set the light meter up to 200 ISO, 200th of a second, which is the fastest shutter speed I can use with my camera before the shutter starts to appear in the shot. And I'm going to ask Della just to hold the flash meter against her face, pointing the white bulb on it towards the light source itself, and then press the test button. Fantastic. Once she's done that, I can then see that the reading is giving me 200th of a second, 200 ISO, and f6.3. So f6.3 is my aperture. That's cool because I'm not really bothered about excessive depth of field here. I'm not really bothered about shallow depth of field, and so I'm happy to work at what I've got, so f6.3. So let's take an image and see how that looks. I'll dial in those settings, 200th of a second, 200 ISO, f6.3. And the other thing I'm going to do is work on a cloudy white balance. Why do I work on a cloudy white balance? Well, I'm working with skin here. I work a lot of the time with skin. I work in the world of fashion photography a lot of the time, and skin is my stock in trade. If it looks cold, if it looks clammy, then it's no good to me. It needs to look warm and vibrant and luscious, and straight out of camera, a cloudy white balance tends to give me that without having to do much work in Photoshop afterwards. And essentially, I'm a very idle person. I like to get it right in camera if I possibly can, and so a cloudy white balance, top tip, try it if you don't already. Okay, enough waffling, let's take a picture and see how it looks. So there's our first shot, and what we're seeing is a little bit of shadowing on the left-hand side of Della's nose as we look at the image. We're seeing nice even light on the right-hand side of her face. The shadow's just a wee bit too strong on the left-hand side of the nose for me, just a little bit deep on the cheekbone, and so to soften that, I'm going to keep Della looking at me, and then I'm going to ask her to turn her head. Now the exact amount of turn is important, and so I'm going to control the amount I turn her by holding my fingers up, asking her to look at my fingers, and then as I move my hand, I have total remote control over my model, and as I move my hand backwards and forwards, you viewers can't see my hand, all you're seeing is Della moving automatically backwards and forwards, up and down, and it's like remote control model, and all you have to do is remember that the model's watching your fingers so you don't pick your nose or scratch your butt or anything like that in mid-flow, or else it's just going to look terrible. So, just chin round just slightly this way, that's kind of gorgeous, and eyes looking straight into the light, that's beautiful. And by taking that shot, you see how we've softened the nose shadow, we've created that definition across the face, we've softened the shadows along the jawline, and we're getting some nice even light. Well, nice even light is good. Nice even light's fun, but we like to add drama and definition in my pictures. I don't like just to do ordinary, nice, evenly lit stuff. So what we're going to do is adjust the light position. Again, in this confined space, there's so much you can do. Don't ever feel hemmed in by the amount of space you've got available to you. So let's move the light a little bit and see what difference that can make. Let's put the camera down there, and instead